Hi everyone, today's video is going to be an update on a project pan, and this might be one that a lot of y'all have actually forgotten about because I haven't been able to update y'all in a really long time, and that's my entire makeup collection rolling project tin pan. And so I very recently started my weekly makeup, or my weekly product pan, and it's kind of the same premise. So what I've done is a while ago I drew 10 items randomly, and I did that because I have my entire makeup collection in a spreadsheet by pan. So like each eyeshadow pan is one line. And I drew 10 items and I've been trying to use up those 10. And I only update y'all when I actually have an empty, because as you'll see, there's a lot of redundancy, and that's just what happens when you randomly pick 10 items. So before this I had used up 3 items, and like I said, it's rolling, so I keep adding in more. But once I've used up 10 in this pan, I'm going to end it, and then I'll probably start it again like the next day or so. But then I can at least, you know, if there's certain things that just aren't making any progress, I can eventually put them away, if that makes sense. But anyway, I'm going to show y'all the 10 items, and then we're going to draw a new one. So first, the thing that was empty is this Ofra Banana Highlighting Powder. So I got this, I believe, in an Ipsy bag, and it was valued at $12. And you can see it is completely empty. I don't repress items. I kind of just shove my brush in there and make it work. Sometimes it gets a little chunky, but I would rather do that than repress them. That's just my opinion. And this did a really good job. Oh, well, no, I'm sorry. That's a lie. I did not really like this. I feel like you just get on autopilot and you're like, blah, blah, blah. No. So this was the yellow powder, and it was fine. Don't get me wrong. It wasn't horrible. It wasn't overly powdery. I don't feel like I went through it really quickly. I felt like, you know, it was good. But it just didn't set things very well. And so I used it all over my entire face, actually, just because I felt like that was a good way to use it. I'm sorry if y'all can hear them working on my yard, or on the property, I guess. That's not my personal yard. But anyway, I feel like this just didn't really set down makeup, and it just didn't do a good job. So I'm glad it's gone, but this is completely empty. So I have an empty, and I'll go ahead and throw it in away. And so then I'll show y'all the 9 items that I'm still working on. So first is in the Anastasia Beverly Hills Maya Mia palette. And in this, I'm working on the shade Deep Brown. So it's this beautiful deep brown shade. And it is matte, and you can see since last time I've actually hit pan, which is pretty exciting. And I use this every day in my brows, and I feel like it does a really nice shade. It's pretty neutral. I wouldn't say it's cool or it's warm. It's just a neutral brown, and it does a good job. So there you go. It's right in there, and I've hit pan. Like I said, I use it every day on my brows, so by doing that, I'm hoping I can, you know, eventually use that up. A lot of these items you'll probably remember, or you might know, and like I said, I'll link the whole playlist down below of my project pan so you can see past updates. But a lot of these were pretty much brand new, so you're not going to see a ton of progress on a lot of these things. But this is the Paula's Choice Blush It On Contour Palette. So this is the blush that I have on today, and it's the Blush Soft Mauve. These blushes are 3 grams a piece, and I've used it a ton. And you can definitely tell it's been used more than these other 3, but there's still not a huge dip, which is disappointing, but it's also partly my fault because I did put other blushes in these pans instead of just focusing on this. So I'm not going to put any blush in a project pan unless I like randomly draw it, of course, with the exception of this guy, because I would really like to use this up. I would say, because this is a whole palette, I focus mainly on this, but occasionally I'll use these other 3. And also, if I'm ever not panning a bronzer or a highlighter, I do use it. And so you can actually see, specifically this highlighter has a little bit of a dip in it, and that's because I wasn't panning a highlighter, so I just went into this every day, which is nice. You know, for those times like when you're between pans or whatever, I can use these 2 items as well, but this is the item that I'm really focusing on, and like I said, I don't think it has some use. They're very, very pigmented. I have done a full review of this palette, and it'll be linked below. They're very pigmented, so you can see I barely touched it today, and I have some really rosy cheeks, so it's kind of harder to use. Oh, goodness, y'all, I forgot about my weights. I did weigh these, so let me look. So the Paula's Choice, I've actually lost a gram. It went from 80 grams to 79. And then the Anastasia Beverly Hills weighs the same. It's 114. So next we have the Kat Von D Esperanza palette. I actually do have an entire empty pan in this palette, which is really exciting. This is the only, well, one of the only palettes where I have a totally empty pan. And the actual shade I'm working on is the shade Dog Roses. So you can see there is a little bit of a dip. This is what I have on my lid today. And you can tell it's a very bright copper. It's kind of, I think it's pretty unique. Maybe not in a swatch, but on the eyes, it's very brightening. I am, as you'll probably know, panning this Lorac Beauty and the Beast palette, and it also has a shimmery brown. So I usually reach for that as opposed to this one, which is kind of one of the bad things about doing multiple projects, especially a project like this where I have no control over what I draw, because it does mean that sometimes I end up with a lot of redundancy, but that's what happens, and you know, we just work with it. But anyway, this is the shade Dog Roses, so I do really like it. I love this palette. There you go. So, and that weighs the same at 114 grams. Next, we have the Sally Hansen Insta Dry Nail Polish, and that is the nail polish I have on. I do have a glitter topper over it, but that's the nail polish. And you can see last time I was here, and now I'm down to here. And this went from 51 to 46 grams. So I have lost, I mean, I've used up a ton of this. This is the only base nail polish that I have right now. So I will definitely, I think this will be the next product to be gone. Well, depending on what I draw, I guess. But I think that you'll be getting an update a lot sooner than last time because of this. I think it's almost gone. And yeah, you know, I'm working on it. We'll just see what happens with that. I don't love it. It's very thick, especially now it's getting thicker and thicker. And the brush is really, really large. So it's kind of hard to put on. I feel like you could get away with one coat, but I always do too, just because if I just do one, I always end up missing like a little piece or something. But anyway, this is the next item. And like I said, it's lost 5 grams. Next, we have the Geek Chic Cosmetics Awesome Mix Pigment. So this is from their Guardians of the Galaxy collection, and I do have a review of that, so it'll be linked below. And this is in the shade Ain't Nothing Like Me, which obviously, you know, pigments are really hard to use. Or not, they're hard to use. I love pigments, but they're hard to use up. And this is the deeper brown that I have in my outer V. So you can see that even though these are similar, they are different on the eyes. And I do like this. Again, I have another shimmery brown, so I don't use it. I don't use this very much. Also, I love a pigment for like the lid. This is a little deep to me to be a pigment, so I don't use it as much as I would if it was a different shade. But anyway, this still weighs 7 grams. I don't really have a ton of use, but we're working on it. That's all we can do. And like I said, things like this are one of the reasons why I would like to finish 10 and then kind of start over. Because, you know, I might not finish this anytime soon, but I don't want it to keep like holding a place. So I use it every day that I do an update, and maybe some other times. Obviously, I'm not saying I'm not going to focus on these items. I'm just saying that, you know, it allows me to be able to be like, okay, we're done. I've finished up 10 items in this. I'm going to put everything away and start fresh. And so then hopefully it'll make me not get too bored with these items. Next, we have the Tarte Cosmetics Tarteist Pro palette. And that is here. I love this palette. I've done a review. I've also done a full face one palette where I just use this for all of the powder products on my face. And for this, I have the shade Edgy. And you can see that the embossing on the shade has almost worn out, and there is a little bit of a dip. This shade's a little bit warm to put in my brows, though it can work. I have this as my crease shade today. It's a little bit dark, but I do like this shade. I've loved this palette in like overall, but there you go. Edgy. And this palette has lost a gram. It went from 285 to 284 grams, which is pretty good. Next, we have the Urban Decay Smoked palette, and that is right here. And in this palette, I have the shade Freestyle, which is right here. And you can see there is definitely a dip in this palette, in this shade. And this does weigh the same at 157 grams. I love this as a transition shade. It works perfectly for my skin tone. I do have it on in that manner today. And like I said, there is a pretty big dip. This shade is really hard pressed, which is kind of typical of all Urban Decay. I was using this every day, but again, in my Lorac Tale as Old as Time palette, I have this shade Inner Beauty right here, which I'm using as a transition now. So once this shade is gone, I'll go back to Freestyle because there's not another transition in this palette. But because of my Pan That palette, which I'm really enjoying, please don't get me wrong, it means that I'm not getting as much use out of this palette. But, you know, what are you going to do? And like I said, this hasn't lost any weight. Next, we have the Stila Eyes Are the Window Body palette. Almost dropped it. Didn't, but almost. And for that, we have the shade Emerald. And there is a little bit of a dip. This palette has actually gained a gram, so it went from 144 to 145. Someone one time mentioned, in order to kind of keep that from happening, to weigh things multiple times. So I've been doing that in order to be a little bit more exact. But like I said, this one has gained a gram, and it's pretty. I have it on as a liner today. And I like doing that with eyeshadow. I feel like you can't really tell how blue it is, but that's also really true when you actually put it on your eyes. It a lot of times just kind of ends up looking black. But there it is. This is really, really hard pressed as well, so I'm not making a ton of progress, but I'm also not using it a ton. Again, Beast Mode is a deep blue in my Pan That palette, so with having, it makes sense that I'm drawing a bunch of eyeshadows because that's what I have the most of, and so statistically speaking, it makes sense that that's what I'd be drawing. But because I do have that palette, that Pan That palette, those are really my focus more than these. Also, which is why I don't update y'all every month. I don't update you till I have an empty item, because otherwise I feel like there'd be not a lot of progress. But that's okay, you know what happens. And I was going to say something else. Oh, also, with all of these, like I kind of mentioned it with the Chic palette, but yes, this one shade is my focus, and I have so many things I'm panning, so I don't usually use a lot of this. This is my focus, but I do have like access, if you will, to all of these shades, because during the week, I only use Project Pan items, which means that like if I'm like, ooh, I really want a purple, but I'm not panning a purple right now, I can go into this shade, which means that even though I'm only focusing on one shade really, I'm getting a little bit of use out of the entire palette, which is good. And the last thing is my cream eyeshadow. This is the Covergirl Smokey Shadow Blast. It unfortunately doesn't have a shade name, and you can see I have broken it, which is unfortunate. But I've gotten a lot of use out of this. I use this every single day, whether it matches my eyeshadow or not. It doesn't really show up that well. And I have noticed recently it's creasing a little bit, which is a pain. So I have an eyeshadow primer. Currently I'm using the primer potion, and then this under it, or over it. But you can see there's a lot of progress. And, you know, I feel like I could definitely get, you know, completely use that up. This went from 21 grams to 19 grams, so I've used up 2 whole grams of product. And similarly, I don't use it very often because it's so deep, but I have access to this deep cream shadow as well, should I ever choose to use it. So, there is that. And those are my 9 items. Some of these have more progress than others, obviously. I'm kind of working on more than others. But as I have stated many times recently, I'm trying to do less project pans, and I know I have a lot going on still. But not necessarily less, but not these like 25 or 17, you know, like smaller and seasonal. And I'm just trying to be a lot more cognizant of what I'm putting in. So as I mentioned, I don't want to put blushes in because I'm panning a blush. And I would really love to be able to use up a blush. So there you go. And this project doesn't really have a time limit. It's not like, oh, by the end of 2018 I'll be done. No, it doesn't have a time limit. So in other words, I'm just going to keep on going until I use up 10 items, and then I'll start it over again because I really like doing it. And this is why I wanted to start that weekly product pan, which again, I'll link that playlist down below, just because I knew I just love kind of the mystery of I have no idea what I'm going to pick out, and I don't really have control over what I'm using. But I love that. I think it's fun, and it forces me to go through my collection because like this was sitting in my collection for so long before it got in this pan. So there you go. So anyway, I have 1 to 2,107 on random.org, so I'm going to pick the next item that I have to use up completely. So that's different. My weekly product pan, I just use it every day for a week. Within reason, like today I wasn't able to use it because I had another shade as a crease shade, so I couldn't use it. But in general, I try to use it every day of that week. But yeah, this I have to use up completely. 1826 is the number that I drew. So let's go to my makeup thing, and 1820. This will be a newer item. Too Faced Melt. Oh, okay, so I got a lipstick. That's exciting because I'm not really panning a lipstick right now. Well, that's not true. I just started panning a lipstick. I don't know why I said that. But this I actually got. I started putting the dates on, so I got this the 30th of November. And this is the Too Faced Melted Liquified Matte Lipstick in Candy Cane. I really like this formulation. It has like a pepperminty chocolate scent. This was the like holiday lipstick that Too Faced released 2 years ago. So in 2016, but I just recently got it, like I said, in November. But here we are. I don't have very much use out of this at all. I will go ahead and weigh it. This is also the only one of this formulation that I have. I don't have any more of these Too Faced Melted Mattes, but I'm enjoying it. So this is the item that I will be using to completion. But as I said, I still think the next update you'll get will be because I finished up this guy. And I think I'll be able to finish that up definitely within the next month or so. So hopefully I'll be updating you on this a little bit more sooner. I'm not sure that was proper grammar, but whatever. A little bit sooner than my past update because it definitely was a long time. But I still hope you're enjoying it. I'm loving this. So yeah, I hope you are too. And with that, I'll just see y'all real soon. Bye.